of different topics. So let's bring Robert Kryder into the conversations here and see what he's up to.
Just a second, if you'll bear with me there, Jack. Hey, how you doing, man?
Good. There you are. How's everything going?
It's been going good. It's been going really good. Busy.
Turn up my volume here. I think that's the usual mark.
Right on time.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you? You're going to have to, yeah, you're just on Facebook. You're going to have to hit the link that I posted on the chat.
All right. Let me go back again.
All right. Yeah, it's easy to find. It just says StreamYard. Okay, so yeah, he's just now finding the link, running behind. So, Robert, what have you been up to as far as if you've been able to do any field work lately? It's been crazy. I haven't been able to.
All right. Let me go back.
Yeah, so we were able to go out this weekend, actually, and it was a trip to log and explore a site that we call RBND, which stands for Reptile Bend, but it's just part of the topography, a mesa section where we found the reptoid glyphs with some of the dinosaur and people glyphs and mammoth and things like that, and a lot of ancient monumentation, and so we kind of went a little south of our normal area, extending what we've already found, and we're able to go up and find some really cool construction and some ancient dolmens and things like that are all in line, and do some mapping on that. So that was pretty cool. Oh, I've lost your mic, I think, Jack. You're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that.
You're good.
That's awesome. And the dinosaur people, did you see petroglyphs that actually depicted humanoid dinosaurs?
Not on this round. We didn't actually find any glyphs except, one from like a cowboy in 1957. So, but we were looking for more glyph panels, but the glyph panels are rather hidden that feature the good stuff. So,
right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. There's a cave in the area that the locals have known about for eons, but the latest person that I've been able to talk to, they were in it about 75 years ago, and when they were like 10, and now they're 85, and but all of them before the highways were put in and stuff, and they were still running wagon for transport a lot back then out here. So, but they all remembered they used to stop at this one area, picnic, and walk up to this cave, and inside the cave were glyphs of dinosaurs and people. And they all relate that, but no one can give exact directions to where the cave is anymore. So it's
interesting.
Same area, but
interesting. So more evidence that humans were around during prehistoric times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always fascinating to me, and there's a lot of information coming out of like New Mexico where they just found those, what were they, 21 to 23,000 year old human footprints that must have been migratory people from the Ice Age, is what they presume.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Taken by itself, that's what it could kind of appear like. But that's not the only find in New Mexico of ancient footprints in rock. And debatably, some of them are millions of years old. So, the other ones were, I guess, they're north of Abiquiu somewhere over there, and but when they're just going by the last time that lake bed had water in it was 23,000 years ago, and even if you were there at that lake every single day of the week, well, look at a lake like at a state park or a major beach.
Right.
All it takes is wave action, 1 year's water going up and down, a rain or anything, and it just erases all the marks of all the thousands of the people that go there the weekend before. So even the chances of even any feet print sticking around are rare out of millions. So when we see something like that, how representative is it really of how many feet print there probably were out there? So, I mean, there could have been hundreds of thousands of people, and we get 10 prints after 23,000 years is lucky, you know. How you doing, Mark?
Right. Yep. How's it going there, Mr. Para?
Good. How you doing?
Good. You found the link? I'm so glad that you're joining us. I think Summer is going to join us too here at some point, but she might be having issues with her computer. But we've just been discussing a few of the petroglyphs that Robert has found over, the years, which depict humans with dinosaurs. So that's pretty fascinating. Have you ever found any petroglyphs in all of your combing through the Rockies?
Yeah, we have our Castle Rock area. It has a lot of petroglyphs plus the dinosaur prints. We actually have Triceratops prints inside granite rock that we've found climbing on top of boulders in that canyon area. But the petroglyphs are kind of like Mesa Verde in some areas. They're very hard to get to. You'd need a rope to climb to get to. How they got up there, I don't know.
That's amazing. Yeah. Who knows? I guess they had to lower them down on ropes or something. Do you have any idea on that, Robert, how they actually got to some of these places?
You mean the prints in general?
Yeah, some of the petroglyphs that are
petroglyphs, how they get up high on a cliff.
I mean, they used ropes because we've seen glyphs of natives on ropes in Arizona, and so we know they used ropes. And yucca fiber rope was probably most prevalent in the Southwest, and it's extremely, extremely durable. And it also was used as a low stretch. So if you wanted to measure anything, you didn't use hemp or other fibers. That you'd actually use yucca, because yucca, once it was bound, it wouldn't stretch. So you could do consistent measuring with it. I know they did that with the mines. So I would assume that the Native Americans, yucca fiber was just a byproduct of producing soap and lots of other stuff from the yucca plant. So, they certainly had the fiber. And I think they used ropes. When you go and look at a lot of the cliff dwellings and stuff where there is no way to them, like in Cherry Creek Canyon in Arizona outside Cottonwood, you got 1,300-foot walls, and a lot of them are 1,000 foot of completely vertical. And then you'll take a rifle scope and be glassing the walls, and you'll see areas where they're mudded up with a little square window, and there's no way to get to it, like zero. So, they were either flying or they had rope, but they were doing that. They were using those places for storage and for tombs and things like that. So it wasn't somewhere that they couldn't get back to, So sure. I'm sure it's just, they had balls of steel.
God, you would have to go down one of those cliffs.
Exactly. On one of those ropes with no gear. But it's like the guys when they built Hoover Dam. Have you ever seen the films of that stuff? And they got these big, thick hemp ropes, and they're just holding on to them, and a rock bar in one hand and a 2-inch rope in the other, and they're just running around the walls,
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a whole. People were different, and times were different. And,
it wasn't that long ago, but people sure were different. That's a fact.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my brain has been wondering this week about the idea of maybe the future even, or maybe they're doing it now, of military scientists using some kind of cryptid DNA to make a human super soldier or chimera or what have you.
Well, I've got an opinion on that a bunch, because actually I think that's part of the way, not just the way that we can expect DARPA operations to act and things like that, but we just heard chimeras come out recently in the last year or two that was so feasible, with BLAST and with CRISPR and these other DNA automatic programming systems. They can build just about anything they want now, and so that's where it became to where it had to be discussed. Well, we know that we're 20 years, 30 years behind everything that we hear from what's really been done before it ever leaks down. So what's been created in the last 20 or 30 years? And then, a great way to excuse some of these creations can certainly be cryptids, paranormal, and other things. It's a great cover story. Then you can always dance around the disinfo on it as well, and then you can use that. So I think that, personally, creations in DNA have been even offered to some scientists so that their results would then serve to largely put them either into a fantastical or mythological context or downright fools. Because I notice that often I see individuals in different aspects, even some of the wild space stuff, or like Richard Hoagland is a friend of mine, and I highly respect him. And he went sideways from his original work, and it was actually those sidetracking that tends to take those people off a tier. And often it's things so outlandish, and they're given proof, and then they're shown proof, let's say. But if you wanted to do that on the DNA side with different animals, you could create a DNA. You could create a chimera, take the DNA from it, plant it in research areas, or plant it in someone's research, or just their results, and then say, oh, look, you have this and this. And then it takes everything down a whole nother road. And I know if I was doing programs like that and had 20 years and entire tables of people to figure out how to keep others from knowing what we're doing, even if information gets out, I would think about it. That would occur to me to do that. So,
yeah. And I think you're right. The stuff we see is 20, 30 years behind. And it makes me remember that just a few months ago, a team of scientists from around the world published a research paper where they successfully fused chimpanzee and human genes into a chimera. And 17 of these, they had so many of these that lived for 17 days before they actually terminated them because of moral reasons. So you're seeing stuff that hidden mainstream media, and if you search engine that, you'll be able to read any number of articles about it. But they stated that the reason why they did the experiment was to see why it is that chimpanzee and human genes fuse together so easily, but when they try to mix pig DNA with humans, the genes won't take as easily. So they were trying to figure out what makes them take so easily and apply it to these other, more exotic species.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Well, like what he was talking about, Robert was talking about DARPA. Something that, I haven't been doing a lot of Bigfooting this year just because, as Robert said, we're waiting for life to level off. It may not at this point. So I haven't really done a lot. Plus, there hasn't been a lot going on. So I've just kind of been, focused on what's going on in the world and so forth, national security issues in China and things like that. So I've been doing a lot of remote viewing lately, me and Susan both. That's particular art that we've been messing with.
Yeah, you were mentioning this. Yeah, I want to hear what your results have been.
So anyway, so I just started looking into this hypersonic missile thing that they were talking about. And I started doing research, just practical research on the super soldier that the DARPA CIA projects where they were like building super soldiers and, where that fit in, because I had read an article that the Chinese were attempting to do the same thing. They were attempting to build super soldiers. I don't know if that's genetic or how they did that. So anyways, a lot of the information that we just got initially kind of blew us away. And it's kind of been swirling around us, for a couple of weeks now. We got the bionic woman and bionic man, similar type entities like Jamie Summers and Colonel Steve Austin. And so that's why I had made a post earlier, and I was just seeing if anybody would maybe pick up on it, because I know, Jack, you worked on a submarine and so forth, so you know a little bit about DARPA, the NSA, and stuff like that too on your end. So I just had been doing some remote viewing, and that came up, and so we've just kind of been doing our research more and more and more from what we could find. And I believe that they've got I think they've created superheroes. I don't think they created the Terminator, like we see in the movies. I think that they actually created half human and half machine already, like superheroes. They can probably run faster, climb, do things like that. But that's kind of what we've been focused on. I don't know what, I got a hook in my belly. I don't know what happened. I guess just from focusing on what's going on in the world, with China and everything like that, following national security posts, I just started doing some remote viewing on the super soldier thing. And that's some of the information that we got initially was, Jamie Summers and Colonel Steve Austin. Apparently this stuff has been going on. They started working on these super soldiers back in 1975 when the show came out. And apparently it was just a way of them, kind of the CIA way. They used to do a lot with Hollywood back in the 70s and the 80s and so forth. And I guess that was the message that they were putting out at that time, is that this is something that we're working on. So if you take 1975 to 2021, God knows what they've got out there. I mean, it's I don't know so much about using DNA and genetics to create like creatures, like a Bigfoot creature or something similar, but I could see them using some kind of technology to deceive people and to think they're seeing a shadow out in the forest or something similar. That brings up an interesting point. Mark Abel, I don't watch a whole lot of his videos over in Western Colorado, but there was one particular group of people had posted some still shots from a video that he had. He had been having a bunch of military activity in his area around where he lives, up in the hills around there. A lot of helicopters and jets, and everybody just assumed that they were just doing mountain warfare training up in that area, in that western side of Colorado. Well, somebody had cut a still from one of his videos, and it looks like there's this like a guy dressed in ninja attire with a black balaclava on, and one of those skull, like a fabric skull mask.
Yeah, it's the Holy Cross Wilderness video at 9,000 feet, and I found that frame, and he doesn't even notice it. Like, he's 20 yards away, this thing. I mean, that's what I'm thinking when I look at it, and he's peering over it. It looks like a ninja. You can only see like this much of its face, and man, what a crazy evil kind of looking
well
face.
Yeah, that one's a little bit different, but it is from the same Holy Cross Wilderness. Anyway, so this has a side view, and you can see the face. And someone had made the comment, look at the communication device on that. And you can actually see it looks like a communication device that you would see, a military type. He almost looks like a SEAL, like a Navy SEAL or a ninja type. And you can see the communication device on one side of his ear. And the balaclava is a skull. You see one of the military, a lot of military people like to wear that.
Wow.
And this guy's like dressed like in really, like a ninja, like, someone that's getting ready to go rob a British museum or something like that, and wearing the thin, tight-skinned black attire. And I had made the comment on the video, but no one really, meant or looked at it. They thought it was a Sasquatch, because that's what they wanted to believe it was. But I knew what I was looking at was some kind of other, I don't know. I don't know if it was a government entity or what it was. It's an alien, but it had a communication device. And what's interesting about that, you could only see the earpiece on one side. In modern communication devices that you see is built for military helmets where you have both sides.
Right. So I found the frame that I was talking about on my computer. So I'm going to pull it up and let people see. This is what was staring at Mark Abel from about 20 feet away. Let me go to share.
Yeah, I'll have to dig up the picture that I have that someone had posted, because it's not the same one, but this is the second time he's had that happen out there. So he's either got a ninja running around out there, or the government is interested in what he's doing, and they've got agents watching him out there.
Well, you know, they use everything, public lands, national forest, and everything for certain training. So, I mean, if you want to train a guy to go somewhere, you have him cross towns without getting seen. You have him cross wilderness areas, campgrounds, places where there are people without getting seen. We don't expect for a second that they just do this on military reserves. They do it all over the place. So people, I know that for the last at least 30 years, I've heard of people running into military personnel doing weird stuff literally everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Private land, all over the place. I mean, out here especially, it's all private land, and people run into military not all that unoften. I mean, especially in the weirder places. So it may not be so much him as the location he's at either. But, you know, this is something I wanted to bring up because Steve Isdahall, I mean, has all kinds of information going back and forth about this, and there's people calling in, writing in, and things that claim to be in the know and all this. And then he has these people who claim to be in the know are asking questions that usually someone in the know would be able to figure out. Like they were talking about Bigfoot breaking security and real high security installations, even as much as going right up to the cameras and standing right in front of the camera and then retreating, going back over and making it through like 4 levels of security, you know, so all the way right up to a building. And you think, well, here's the deal. I mean, let's go back and just wrap all this in one biscuit here. If I was doing DARPA projects and I could, let's say, DNA grow an organ, well, that means I could build supporting systems for that in a laboratory. Then I could downsize that, build a skin suit if I wanted to put over any type of system, whether it be biologic or mechanical or biomechanical. They certainly had the time to do it. Now, if I was going to do something and I wanted something that would infiltrate bases all over the world, I would, oh yeah, that's cool. I would try to pick something that I could develop that would be fast and agile and strong and big and the whole 9 yards. And at the same time, it could be witnessed and it would be blown off from Poland to Malaysia to Australia to North America to China. We all have legends and myths about like a Bigfoot type creature. So why wouldn't a program like that create a Bigfoot type creature to take advantage of that? And then why wouldn't they be testing that on their own secure facilities to see if they could break through their own security? Because that's the standard modus. That's what hackers do. That's what banks do. Banks hire hackers to break into their own bank to see if they can test their systems. So if and when they ever did build a suit or something like that, a system like that, then they certainly would be infiltrating their own facilities and not telling anybody. Because if you tell anybody about it, you're gonna color the experiment. The data's no good. So you don't, and you know how it is. It's always need to know basis. So the guy looking at the camera has no clue, and neither does even the manager of a research facility or the military authority on any given facility. Is not going to have a clue about any research projects. They're basically just there as a system. They figure it out. They report it. No one calls them to action. No one tells them to blow the thing away, whatever. So when we look at what the reality of what could go on, and then we look at statistically what probably is going on, be it the time they've had, the money they've had, the imagination they've had. I mean, nobody would if you were going to ever make a biomechanical suit of any kind, whether a person's in it or not, for infiltrating facilities, a Bigfoot's what you'd choose, period, because everywhere anybody sees it. Then you think of, when you talk about people, oh, they stealth this and stealth that. Oh, I don't know if they have the technology. We remember in the 80s through the early 90s, even back in the 80s on shows like Beyond 2000, Omni Magazine, places like that, they talked and showed you these technologies for LCD broadcast in a fiber or LCD on a fabric. So you could make a cloak that shows you what's behind it. This is 20 years ago. They had it on TV. So by then it was already 20 years old. Now, just because it's gone into a bunch of special projects, so they kind of remove it from the limelight. Hey, man, they were showing us these technologies, right? They had them. They showed them to us. And then all of a sudden, oh, now they're gone. So why are we so surprised and debating whether or not they have this tech when they showed us the tech in the late 80s?
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, the whole connection between Project Mockingbird with the CIA, implanting people in Hollywood, as well as certain newspapers, including the Washington Post. And it became known to one of the editors, and she ended up writing this big article about it that people can find.
Yeah. Well, there's been ex-CIA agent come out and say his job is basically, he was the guy that handed the satchels of money to everybody, every major news agency. But we also forget that when Obama first got into office, they allotted $10 billion for public dissemination of information. And did you know there's even an office of public dissemination of information? It means what you get to hear. And they invested $10 billion into the movie and film industry to promote and to be able to do this. And it's a public thing. You can go look it up. It's basically state-driven propaganda, but because they took over the industry. And at that time is when you see many, many shows suddenly have injections of off-the-wall stuff. Like, why in the world is that in there? You know, but that's what they did. I mean, 10 billion is enough to have done what they did anyway.
Can you guys still see and hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't know what happened.
Sorry, Rob. You were kind of cutting in and out a little bit on your mic is all.
Oh, I am? Or Mark?
No, Robert, you were a little bit.
Okay.
Mark, I guess he dropped off. I'm sure he'll ring back on here, but
can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fascinating that they release these images to the public, so they kind of just warm them up to the idea that this technology exists, and all of a sudden there it is. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we're out, New Mexico is known for basically, it's like Area 51 over in Nevada. Well, the whole state of New Mexico has been an experimental playground, you know, from the get-go, and they've kept the place basically repressed. And a lot of it's because of that, because this is a no man's land playground, and they can get away with doing a lot that they just couldn't get away with doing anywhere else. So, you know, we run into these things quite frequently as far as, well, I mean, we've had all kinds of crap happen. We've been targeted by helicopters and then them laser designate us. And, you know, we've had aerial platform fly over and vibrate us, the ground and everything else, where you couldn't even breathe because your lungs wouldn't work because they were vibrating too hard.
Wow.
You know, and not knowing, you know, what's going to happen, not knowing what's going on, you know.
Yeah, it's just crazy these days. There's
Jack,
so many
I'm
weird
on.
things that are going on right now in the world that I wonder if we're not going to have some kind of major cryptid animal discovery of some kind, you know, whether it's even like a dire wolf or something like that, which a lot of people believe is still around.
Well, they've had, you know, there's been a lot of Loch Ness stuff coming up lately, but it's not really made any, you know, it's not making headlines of any sort really. And, you know, so everything from picking up some type of sonics, you know, audio in the water, similar to dolphin chatter or whatever, like echolocation sounding, to some more pictures and stuff like that. So, but we're not hearing a lot of it, and the shows aren't picking up on most of this stuff. So, you know, you've noticed, you know, you've been involved in them. They tend to repeat the same old stuff. There's a lot being discovered constantly, but they keep just going back to the same old thing. So, but that keeps the narrative right where you want it. That's a safe place to be. No production seems to want to go out there on a limb,
right?
And go ahead and go, oh, here it is, you know, because then they might upset someone else's idea of a comfort zone. And so it's better just to play it safe and spend the money where you know it works, and you know.
Exactly, and the people are very proud of their lake monster there. Do you think is it possible that places like the Loch and other lakes that are kind of in the northern hemisphere that have the same thing, like Ogopogo, and there's quite a few of them? Is it possible they're using these freshwater bodies as like a spawning pool, and then they go back out to the ocean, or do you think they're living within these bodies of water?
I think they're living within them, because a lot of them that have, there's hundreds of lakes that have really, really, really good histories of having some form or another animal in them, and there's many dozens. The type of plesiosaur type description, and when we look at them, they certainly could have done that. That's one of the theories, but we see a majority of these lakes are totally landlocked. There is no conduit to the ocean, basically, and it doesn't seem to be a defining factor, right? Whether or not, you don't say, oh, well, it couldn't be in here because it's disconnected from the sea. You basically have the same evidence pointing to both places equally. There's places in Iceland like that, well, really all over the place. A great series I started kind of watching a little bit was, it's a little goofy, but they do a tremendous job, is Boogeyman. I don't know if you ever saw that, but they do.
I haven't seen it. What's it on?
I watch it on YouTube, actually, and I don't know if it ever aired. It looks like something that would air or had aired, and I'm not sure where, but it's done for a general demographic for sure, but it's probably the most coherent, and they certainly do more of their just right off the shelf investigative work and no flash and hype, and it's really in depth, and I was really impressed. And they recount tons I have never heard about, and they do it by visiting the areas, talking to all the people and everything else, and it's not it's not done haphazard at all. It's really good. I would recommend checking it out. You still there, Jack?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of shows out there that are obviously scripted, so it's nice to see some. Yeah, I'm here. Are you there? All right, I can see you now. Yeah, so there's a lot of shows, cryptid shows out there that, of course, are scripted. And so it's nice to see that there is a show that you're describing that's some real field work, that's being actually shown. So I'm going to have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because it's journalist based. It's not pseudo researcher, and it's not somebody trying to make a show about a researcher or their research. It is pure journalism about the subject matter and that kind of stuff. So I'm being buried in cats as we speak.
That's all right. I've got one of those and 3 dogs, so it's a menagerie around here too.
I've got one right below the camera, and I got another one that just made itself here, and
they're superstar cats.
Yeah,
but
have to get a purr-proof microphone. That's all you'll hear.
There you go. I'm surprised my dogs aren't barking, going crazy like they usually do. But the dire wolf. I don't know. Have you seen the film that somebody caught of their dog approaching a gigantic canine? I think it was Montana or Alaska or something.
Yeah, and it was like a husky or something, Malamute or something that approached it too. So it wasn't a little one. Yeah, it was twice its size.
Yeah.
I've heard a whole lot of reports of what I would just go instantly to saying, dire wolf. I mean, they're still around. That's something I would assume that just by logical. It's a logic thing to assume because the descriptions are just like that,
Sure.
And what an animal. Here in New Mexico, especially in the Four Corners, there's been a bunch of them about huge black canines. So running alongside vehicles at 40, stuff like that, easily.
I've heard that before. Out of New Mexico, that there were these large black canines, and now that kind of that makes total sense to me.
And then we had a report, actually more than one report, of something that's pretty big. It's large, big as a mastiff or maybe a little bigger. Not as heavy, but still shorter snout and heavy like that spiky black fur with shorter hindquarters than forelimbs like a hyena. And we've had more than one account, and in the same area, north of Tucumcari, between here and Conchas Lake, so north of Tucumcari, about 20 miles. And in both cases, that was in the same area, going the same direction, crossing the road. Don't know what time of day on both of them. One of them was midday.
And then the short legs, do you think that's an aspect of the dire, or do you think this was another kind of canine?
I don't know. I haven't really looked that much into the anatomy of a dire wolf comparison. But when it ran, they said it reminded them low haunches in the back, scooting real good, but they said not stretched, more like a hyena. They said it looked a lot like, body shape like a hyena, and I've had more than one of those accounts. Hard to say whether or not that's just an animal skitching low with its heels because it's real scared.
Sure.
Or startle. You've seen dogs do that. When you make a loud noise behind them, they'll tuck tail and put their ass down and scooch real fast. It could be something like that happening
Right.
with a big dark dire or something. But
Yeah, that's fascinating. The possibility of that. And you talk about a huge cryptozoological find. If you could, get a specimen of a dire wolf, and that's an obtainable goal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be fascinating if somebody actually came up with bones or anything to prove they were still around. And there's Mark back with us. How are you?
Well, it dropped me and then it let me back on, so I don't know what happened.
Maybe the government didn't want us talking about DARPA suits.
Yeah, I bet you that hit the algos, and they were like, we got to eliminate one of these guys.
Oh, that's not cool. I want one.
That is really a fascinating subject, though, to get into. It's really surprising what we find just when you start digging in this stuff. It's really, really cool. So, and I love all that stuff. I love, I know people have issues with CIA and all that stuff, but I think that would be the coolest job in the world to be working with those people at DARPA or wherever. I mean, building all the gadgets and the devices that spies get to use and stuff. That would just be the greatest job. I know Robert would love it because he likes to invent things.
Yeah, I've had a lot of friends that are in all those programs over the years. I almost got recruited when I was like 18, but I think I was just too much of a long-haired surfer boy to walk down those steps. But I got interviewed by a couple of guys from Lawrence Livermore Labs when the first couple of weeks we were in our little electronics class, because they said something you wanted to build by the end of the year, and I wanted to make a little levitating craft with 3 coils. And I don't know, I probably had a friend and told them about it. But they came in and talked to me about it and wanted to know. All they were interested in is where you're going to get the power source. They was like, they didn't even care about the whole concept. Matter of fact, they said they were doing the exact same thing in a big building with 1 coil. And I asked him, why don't you use energized curbs and then 3 coils? And he said we even think we get too complicated sometimes. He told me, he said we could have saved a lot of money. We were looking at your concept, and he said, but our question is, how are you going to power it? And I told him, I'm going to plug it into this power supply right here, So, but I wasn't real serious at that point. But the idea was solid enough to get them to come and, check it out. But I didn't get picked up and recruited into any special program at that point. So, and I kind of wish I had, but I wouldn't have, got to where the rest of where I am now. So I'd still jump in a heartbeat, and I know a lot more now,
Right. Exactly. They could definitely use all of the knowledge that you have. I was going to mention, because Mark was talking about Chinese super soldiers earlier, and there is a newspaper article, mainstream media article, I should say, about them doing something with their soldiers where they were increasing the lung size. So that they could process more oxygen, therefore have more energy and longer endurance and stuff like that. So that article is out there somewhere for people that are in the audience and want to take a look at that.
Well, I'm going to drop something for the first time ever. I've never told anybody publicly about this before ever, and it has to do with myself. And so when I was going to be born, they thought my mom would die because she had already miscarried due to internal hemorrhaging. And because her tissues, they didn't believe in the uterine wall were tough enough to carry a baby through term. So the entire time she was pregnant with me, she went on to an experimental program, and she took something they called vitamin P. And this happened in Denver, Colorado, and Durango, Colorado, back in the 60s. And now when we look up, it's odd because I had some pretty strange things about me, personally, physically. And skin, bones, teeth, and things aren't like that of a normal person. So my dentist one time told me that I wasn't human, and then and a bunch of stuff. So, but the compound was called vitamin P. And then as I got older, just a few years ago, I did research on when I found out more of the truth from her before she passed, and there was 50 different experimental compounds that were all called vitamin P on the front page. And what they were doing is keeping track of everything behind because they didn't want to color the study. So apparently, and then they were going to do long-term tracking of the subjects. So the basis of it, though, was, and if you look it up, you can actually read this now, of what it does to tissue. So to stop her from hemorrhaging or having any problems or miscarrying, it strengthens all the tissues in the body, and it changes things like even the bone and things like that. And nerve tissue, all kinds of things alter and change. And they did that the entire time she carried me. And then, now that I've had some issues with a few things that are odd, and then had to have things looked at by doctors and whatnot. And but thick skin, fibers in the skin, like Morgellons, but a little different. So when you cut, they tried to chop me a couple times, and it just dulls scalpels left and right. And then sounds like you're cutting silk when you're cutting, and pretty off the wall stuff. There's no. I have an extra roots on all my teeth. So I have 4 on some teeth, and the ones that, like the eye teeth that should have 1, they have 2. All of them have nerves, and then there's no ligament between the bone and the tooth. It just goes bone to tooth itself. So, and then there's 11 extra millimeters of bone in the jar or whatever. So whenever they had to pull teeth, they have to go in and cut 11 millimeters of bone out, and then. So, but there's a lot of odd changes that occurred like that. And see, what I'm thinking and what I came to the conclusion of, there's a high possibility they were taking advantage of patients in hospitals with basic defects and things to bring these compounds into light to see what the effects would be later on down the road. And if they had done that, they certainly wouldn't tell anybody about it. And they would just long-term study and see what happens. And I thought it was odd, though, that vitamin P was even a real thing. My mom told me that, when we were young, didn't. And then when I saw enough things where doctors were telling me, then, you're built weird. You got some weird shit, right down to bone density, almost have no porosity to the bone in my jaw and face, and some stuff like that. So it's pretty off the wall. And it's tough. Those bones are really, really tough. And my skin, I don't bruise. You hit me with bats and I won't bruise. I might bruise on the inside, but never like capillary bruise on the outside.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate. I've been beat up bad. I got hit by the telephone pole that flew off a truck that was going 30 mile an hour. And I heard stuff crack, but I mean, it would have killed somebody or taken them out, and I was able to get up. The world was like jelly. It screwed me up, but nothing like it should have. And, It's been interesting this whole time. And I think that maybe they've been doing a lot of things like that, a lot. With chemistry, biology, biomechanics. I think they've tried probably just about everything they could, and right through standard, front door medical, so, and who knows where it's led. And so kind of in a weird way, who knows who's walking around with traits that we would consider superhuman or subhuman based on projects that they're not even aware of. And these could be mental abilities. These could be, a telekinetic or whatever, God knows what, that were developed behind their back, So, I mean, the possibility exists, so it should be factored in. Everybody's all quiet.
Oop, you froze up on me there, Robert.
Oh, I think your end is where it's at, Jack.
Oh, there you
go. Oh, yeah. I can hear everybody. It kind of echoes sometimes.
Okay, let's see if that's going to be that could probably be another app that was running, but yeah, I think you're completely right. There's probably been so many different experiments going on from,
Well, that's what's going on now, and that's people are not wanting to get vaxxed because of conspiracy theories. The government tries to say they're caught up in conspiracy theories about the government and so forth. It's all proven. It's already known. They did every kind of experiment that you can imagine on people, especially during the 60s, 70s. My father was in Vietnam. I know a lot about the stuff that they did on them, experiments that they did on them back then. And so that's why people are afraid of the vaccine, because they don't trust the government doing that stuff. They do it.
Well, what's funny is you could walk through like a cloud of nanotechnology and not even know it or see it and inhale it, and then you have nanobots all through you. You know what I mean? So we're kind of at the,
and that's something that happened to me and Susan early before the COVID broke. We were in the process of transitioning, moving, and so we were staying in one of those extended stay motels. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Robert dropped off.
I'm here.
So anyways, we were standing outside and it was in winter. And this was about 6 or 7 months before we had heard about COVID, before the public had heard about it. And this yellow like fog came through and froze everything. And it had like a greenish yellowish tint to it. And I told Susan, I said, isn't that the weirdest fog? It's like it has a yellowish color to it. And in some areas it froze the road, so there were accidents. Well, this yellow fog, we went back inside our hotel room, and for the next, like within 24 hours, we were both extremely sick. I mean, really sick, really, really bad. And walking pneumonia is what it evolved into. So we both had walking pneumonia for a number of weeks, and Susan actually collapsed and had to go to the hospital. Then we started to heal, and we got a little bit better. And then COVID broke, and me and Susan looked at each other and we were like, remember the yellow fog? We were so sick. Whatever was in the air at that time just gave us pneumonia. And so we felt that we had built up some natural immunity because we were sick for weeks before. And then we started to get better. And then all of a sudden COVID broke and we heard it was just everywhere. And so we think it was that there was we were attacked first.
Sure. I've got an interesting tie-in for that, Mark, because there are some, and then we're going to have to call it a show here pretty quick, but there's some old accounts from the days of the plague in Europe of the people seeing these black cloaked figures that were emitting a type of fog through these cities. And that's where the figure of death, the hooded figure with the sickle came from.
Yeah, carrying rods, sweeping the rods back and forth with fog emitting from the rod.
Yeah. So that's just amazing.
Yeah, it is, because, and if you ever see that yellowish greenish fog, get the hell away, because like I said, it blew right over us. And then we had pneumonia for like the next 3 weeks. We were like really bad.
Wow.
And then, but we healed, and then COVID broke. So we think it was it, and we think we built up natural immunity. So maybe.
Yeah, you never know. Well, we got to call it a podcast at that, guys. Thanks so much for joining in again. Summer didn't make it in. I don't know. Maybe she was having some technical issues. And tell everybody how they can find you guys and your work online, because I'm sure there's a ton of audience out there that doesn't know you got a Facebook page, etc.
Go ahead, Mark.
Colorado Sasquatch Research Facebook page. We also have the Facebook group Sasquatch Researchers of the Southwest, of the American Southwest. That's just an open page that we run also. And then you can just contact us on Facebook. Nothing else is real. I'm in the process of building a website right now, but that's really tough. But I'll put that out there when it's put together.
No, that's great. How about you, Rob?
You can go see our work or what's posted anywhere at KryderExploration.com as a website. Then on YouTube, we're KX space Kryder space exploration. I think you can just put in YouTube /Kryder Exploration. It'll come up. Now on Facebook, we've got a Bigfoot site called KX Cryptid Hominin Research Group New Mexico Bigfoot. And you can get to that from our other Facebook group or page, and I should say, and they're both called Kryder Exploration. So come check us out.
Fantastic. And for any of you guys, if you've not seen Robert's videos on his YouTube channel, they're amazing. So thanks for being with us tonight, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday night, same time, same place, and we'll be discussing another good.
All right, you guys.
All right. See you guys.
I'll see you brothers later.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, guys, that's gonna wrap that. I'm gonna hang out with the chat for a little bit here and see how things are going. I'm off time from you guys for what I can see on the chat, but let me run back up and say howdy to everybody here. Give everyone a good hi. And also, I want to have a couple of shout outs to people. One of them is Jameson Lockasine. He's one of the kids I've been raising. I'm real proud of him. We're proud of both of them. Love my little family. And Jameson wants to start a KX for Kids stream or some content, and so that look forward to that coming up here pretty soon. And then I also want to, a little special shout out to a couple people that have really helped over time that haven't really got a lot of recognition, but they've always been there for me. And that's Chuck Parker and Richard Hendrick, and you guys know who you are, and I just want to say thank you for all you've done. Also, my patron shout out to Todd Harris, J. Marie Scott, Cheryl Carter, and Gorilla Girl. I think I might have even lost a couple of those people, but I don't care. I'll still have them up here because I just appreciate them helping out for the time they did. And then hi, Judy Wheeler. Good to see you. Richard King, King David, Nameless, Josh Sassfire, Deborah Evan. Good to see everybody. Skunk Ape Dude, good to see you. Skunk Ape Dude, Digger Dog, One Alone, Bama BF, Illinois Sasquatch. Let's see who else is in here. Strange Land, White Tiger. Thanks, you guys, everybody, for showing up. Just want to say thank you so much. Nameless, caught the last 5 minutes. What did I say? Story of my life. I love it. Well, when you started commenting, we were about to go on at 7 Mountain. So just watch that time. We were usually within a minute or two of our noted start time. So let me go ahead and read some of these comments, see if we need to address any of this here. Yeah, hi King David, good to see you. Richard King, so good to see you guys. You're here over and over and over. Diehard fans. Who's the toughest guy on... Joshua Sassfire asks, who's the toughest guy on C4C? That's hard to tell. There's some pretty tough guys up on the res that are on there. Probably George or one of them, I would imagine. Yeah, and Deborah, I didn't catch that. I can't see my stream screen. I took a shot in the dark, and I did get that title off of there for you. So Skunk Ape, where can I see this video? I'm not sure which video, but if you're still in the chat, you want to write that real quick, I'll address that for you. Yeah, One Alone. I know you say, dang, I'm late again, Robert. Notifications keep getting turned off. Yep, that's a fact of life with KX. That's why we ask that everybody does their part, and what we mean by that is keep yourself ready to be informed, check back often. Share everything. Share what you can, because really the more it gets noticed, and the more people begin to then notice that that's happening. So actually, the less it will happen. So if you guys can just keep resubscribing, keep hitting the notification bell, keep checking back with us. We're going to try and get more and more up as we can. So I know that they take you guys off the subscribers list. I know that they don't notify you. We're doing the best we can to take up that slack, but just stick with us and share. Ninja Dave 1970, thank you very much. Like I said, we're trying to answer questions, and that's the whole point. We're trying to do it for people that don't have the ability to get out there and do it themselves. Stormtroopers full of meth during World War II. Yes, they certainly were. That's where it came from. Yep, Illinois Sasquatch, Lawrence Livermore Labs have definitely done that. And I've always been connected one way or another with people from the defense laboratories. I've just been sought out and befriended by many working backdoor projects and backdoor to the backdoor. So you're right, they certainly have, and they continue to do so. Yep, the public at large have always been the guinea pigs, haven't they? I mean, we've all found out about projects since day one. So, incredible show out of Julie Wheeler. Thank you very much. Bomba BF, thank you. I'm sure JC's looking down with a smile. Okay, so. Oh, thanks, Strangeland. Usually watch Bigfoot Odyssey on Wednesday nights. This will be my show. Great. So, and basically, this isn't our show. It's Jack's show. I want you guys to go over and to the Paranormal Intelligence Agency and give them a like, you know, and hit them up. Subscribe with Jack. He's got a lot of good stuff to say. Got a lot of experience, and he'll bring that to the table. So I want you to give a big shout out to him for me, and I appreciate. I want to say thanks to Jack as well for allowing me to simulcast this stuff so it gets the word out to a larger deal. This is one thing we want to do. We want to collaborate in a free manner, and not enough people want to collaborate in these fields. They all want to keep everything to themselves, and not really put it out there. With anyone else. They all want to be number one. So we're trying to get around that and form true collaboration with nobody trying to steal any credit. And I appreciate Jack and Mark and everybody for being this way with me. And but like I said, so this isn't even my show, but we're gonna try to be doing this every Wednesday. I may miss a Wednesday here or there just because of what I'm doing. But if I can jump on there and jump in, then I will. This is all last minute stuff. So. Referring to a video that Mark mentioned. Okay, thanks, King David. That helps a lot, actually. Let's go KX Kids, right on Gorilla Girl. And I'll be seeing you here in about 10 minutes. Any of you don't know or haven't figured it out, Gorilla Girl's Tara, my love. So she's my partner in all this stuff, and I'm proud to have her. And thank you, babe. Strangeland, all good. I enjoy listening to Jack in the past. Yeah. And, you know, Jack's been good. He's been on everything, and they should utilize him more. You talk about guys, a walking encyclopedia for the unknown and the odd. And I've always enjoyed Jack's company, and he's good in the field. He's high energy, you know, attentive. You know, he doesn't play around. He takes things serious. You know, fun guy to be around, but, you know, refreshing in the field, basically. You know, people either take it so serious that they're tricking themselves, Edgar Allan Poe style, or they are so flamboyant or loose that, you know, there's just no getting any serious work done. And Jack's a good balance of all the above. The content, the channel that JC Johnson had, I think it's JC Johnson, I think, or Crypto Four Corners. And I don't think they could continue the Crypto Four Corners because I'm not sure anybody had the information on that channel. But as far as I know, that's what was going on with that. Okay, so if you guys want to see anything, I could flop some stuff on the screen. I don't mind doing that. If there's anything in particular anybody wants to look at that I've mentioned in the past or whatever, let me know and I'll rip out some files. It looks like the live stream is up to, oh man, it's got to be a full 5 minutes behind me watching what you guys are getting based, you know, in comparison to what I'm doing here. So who knows? I'm not even sure how long. Oh, Todd Windham, just saw your message pop up. I said, dang, I missed most of it. It's okay. You can hit rewind. It works. And we're still here. So, and like I said, I'm offering to anybody, I'm going to wait until, the lag time for you guys have to respond. But if you want to see anything, let me know and I'll rip some files out of the computer. No problem. One alone. Just let me know. Because I've got terabytes here. I wouldn't even know where to start. Well, thanks, King David. I guess, don't mind the delay. I guess maybe it's about 2 minutes. So just pretend I'm talking to you from about 1/8 of the way to Mars. Same thing. And I bring up a camera, you guys, but once the camera has been allotted to StreamYard, I can no longer do that. So I can no longer get it into the OBS software. It won't activate the camera once it's been in StreamYard, so I'd have to shut the system down, restart it. And that would kill our live stream. So, I have no idea what to bring up and show anybody. So you guys will definitely have to let me know what you'd like to see, what genre maybe of the unknown. I'm kind of poking around, just kind of looking. See what happens if I do this real quick. Let's do a test. Oh, well, that kind of came up now, didn't it? So there's something for everybody. Has everybody seen how big a Denisovan skull is to a modern human? And then considered this is a possibility of a Bigfoot or a partial or something similar. Most people have heard of Denisovan, but they don't realize how big they were. And they actually were bigger than even this scale, because one of the molars was twice the size of a standard person's molar. And we look at the brain case on both Neanderthal and Denisovan. Both of them had a bigger brain case than we do. Just a random picture I figure you guys might check and might like. Oh, thanks, Todd Wyndham. Not sure which show you heard the other night. Might have been, was it this one on Paranormal Intelligence Agency? Or, there's going to be one coming out on World Bigfoot Radio you guys are going to have to check out, because we're kind of going all out for that. Well, I'm behind on everything. I'm still supposed to send him files that go with our interview, and I'm still lagging on getting that done. And also, here's a shout out to Jason Kenzie too. I know you probably want to wring my neck for holding back on getting you the audio files and things from Michigan. But I ended up with about 175 hours per the recorders, and they kind of all got mixed up when we did the data cards with Blake up there. So, because it was so last minute, and so I just have not had the chance to go in and pull specific audio for you, and I need to get that done, and I do want to apologize to you for that. Now I'm going to go ahead and read some more. Pikachu, are you that Charlie guy I heard about? Yeah, buddy. How's KX Kids going? You better get things going. That's Jameson. Yeah, these kids always give me a hard time. I always tell them I identify as, and I am the Loch Ness Monster, and my name's not Charlie, so now I've got to live with being called Charlie all the time. Gorilla Girl, I'm not sure what you put up there, but it says message restricted. Now you got my curiosity. Nameless says, listen to an amazing witness interview. That is the first I know documented shape-shifting item. So just saw it vanish, turn into a lizard, cycle behind tree, emerge human jogger. That's interesting, and it's totally possible. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. What they say is believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see. And there's a reason they say believe half of what you see. So just because we see things does not necessarily mean those things are the way they appear to be. For sure. Yeah, the Denisovan does look a bit elongated. It's interesting too, because it definitely, you have all that extra skull behind the attachment for the spine there. So The terms elude me, but so it definitely was fully bipedal. I mean, just as much or more so basically than even we are. Hi, King David. Yeah, well, the Denisovans are a pretty recent find, but they're actually finding now how that they were very widespread, and they're doing that basically through a lot of the DNA, because we blended with as many as 5 of our early ancestors. So Neanderthal was one, of course, and then Denisovan was another, and we're finding Denisovan DNA spread in a pretty vast area, and Denisovan remains are now being identified on based on the recent finds. They've been finding them for years, but not classified as such. So it's been known. The thing that wasn't largely known until the recent finds in China that were called Dragon Man was that Denisovans were so big, and it's totally been known in anthropology, but for some reason they just do not like to tell you that we had ancestors, and a lot of our ancestors were bigger than we were, because it messes up their scale. They show you go from the monkey to the modern man, and we got taller as times went on, and that's just not really true. A lot of them were taller than we were, and Denisovan was a lot taller. Homo heidelbergensis was taller and more robust than we are, and they had a higher vocabulary. I mean, I'd say no, vocal ability, not vocabulary, vocal ability, because they could make sounds above and below us, and they were very well understood, and they could also hear above and below our range as well. So larger, as smart, with vocal and hearing, outside of our ability, lung capacity outside our ability. So on the ancient tech we found, all right. So most of the ancient tech we found is in situ, and we know it's there based on scanning technology. And what we're talking with that is ancient advanced technologies, things that emit radioactive fields, or you could say absorb radiation, like maybe absorb all the electrons in a certain area at the same time emitting fields or beacons. And these places are marked with monuments and things like that. So that is we'll have to actually do a specific video on that. I can't really break into that and just cover it vaguely, because it's a really in-depth deal, and it's something I need to show everybody kind of what's going on with that. That would be a good 2-hour video by itself there. So one alone, did I ever get the video you sent to me? I may have, but I don't really know. I get so much, and I'm trying to do so much, that a lot of it slips through my fingers, and I have to continually retrieve things in my junk mail, because we're so messed with that anything personal email stuff usually ends up in the junk mail no matter what I do to settings. So I may have to go and try to make sure. Ninja Dave 1970, KX for Kids coloring book with Bigfoot and dinosaurs. Denisovan, yeah. Janice Carter was talking about doing a coloring book for kids, maybe a collaboration. You got. Well, I'm not really into doing too much collaboration stuff, except with our direct affiliates or KX internal team. But yeah, it sounds like fun, and it's certainly some subjects. Jason Kenzie's actually coming out with a child's book, and another thing that I haven't done for him, I gotta apologize, is he wanted me to read a part for the audio portion of this book that'll be out. So it's kind of cool, and it's just one page, and it's got a little girl and boy both, so it should be interesting to do that. It should be kind of fun. Probably get laughed at quite a bit. Doug Landry, I think the portal thing and sulfur smell that could be mistaken for squatch scent, a bit crazy, I know. Yeah, I don't know. That's one of those things that's up in the air because we just don't have any information. It's a good idea, though. Something to consider. Simple testing with the right equipment and the people that do have those encounters or whatever could certainly pay off in that, because it would tell a lot about the smell itself. So King David, thanks for subscribing. This is fascinating. I heard the giants challenge their presuppositions about evolution. Yeah, I mean, absolutely it does. And it's not so much even evolution, because there's always rooms for branches on the tree, but what it does, we live a very Romanesque life all over the planet. So, and no one is supposed to be better than we are now. No one is supposed to be bigger than we are now. No one is supposed to be smarter than we are now. We're supposed to be the epitome. Supposed to be the top of the line. And a lot of that comes because, they don't want us to see our world in a careful nature of, wow, we could disappear tomorrow. Maybe we should take care of what we're doing and pay attention. To think that beings like us that were potentially even superior in many ways aren't here anymore doesn't state that they were inferior. Matter of fact, they might have been superior in an innocence or an honesty. And then all you need is the opposite of that. All you need is the antithesis to innocence and honesty, and it takes over instantly. It's kind of like if you had a perfect enlightened race, well, they would only exist as long as everyone was, because the first moment there's some guy down the road that's not, well, he can make fodder of everyone else, because an enlightened race where everything's in balance and perfect doesn't need anyone to defend them. They don't need an army. They don't need a police. They don't need anybody else. So anybody that really wanted to, that had bad intentions, could sweep right through and annihilate everybody. And that's happened over time. All the innocent cultures who had it figured out are just basically open fodder for those that have the will and the lack of morals to do so. Oh, I see. Gorilla Girl 2 and 2. Yeah, links automatically probably get kicked out of live chat. And that's not in a setting for me. That's just something that they have going on. I thought it was on the Jerry Wills show, one of the best movies. Well, thank you for that. I really do appreciate the compliment on that, because I know Jerry's done a lot. So that really says something. And we're going to do a follow-up to that show eventually. That one was mind-blowing. What, 4 hours, 50 minutes, something like that. And yeah, sucks a lot out of a person pulling that much out. Chris Sliger, yeah. Matter of fact, I will. We're in an area now where there exists ancient advanced tech. I'm only about 40 miles of crow flies from the locations where we've had machines burn up in our hands and scanned and sensed that there was some type of craft or some type of device, metallic device inside of a chamber emitting radiation and things. So I'm going to have to visit that sometime in some type of a video. I don't have any video itself to add in a production, but I do have a limited amount of pictures from some of these sites. So maybe I can try to put something together. Yep, the men of renown were of giant proportions, Perseus and Hercules. Yep, exactly. And it's funny because that's the whole point. That's why they love to call it, what is it called? What did we learn about it in school? It's called mythology. It's called history. It's called mythology. And you'll learn that anything that was Roman, let's say, or the Euro doctrine, anything they don't know about didn't exist. And it only exists if they can squeeze it into the fabric of their story. And it's funny because the story they've told us all and taught us all is a good 200, 300 years old, literally. It's the same, a lot of it is the same Euro doctrine that was being preached that we know is wrong across the board, but it's still in curriculum to this day. In the last 100 years, we've added a tremendous amount of knowledge, but we barely revised. When it comes to history, when it comes to even dinosaurs, things like that, we have barely revised what we were trying to push forth as truth 100 years ago. And science doesn't never declare truth. It just declares what the results of any given situation or experiment is. And you look at the preponderance of evidence, basically the ratio of how often is it one way versus another. And that's where we get all our fact and truth from. But that does not happen in some things. You get a geologist and an archaeologist, they'll agree sometimes, but there are certain times that they'll stand on both sides of the fence and absolutely never come to terms with each other. Because if an archaeologist uses geology to date finds. You're going to look at things that are unbelievable. And it goes vice versa, and paleontology as well. These sciences do not join with each other. And the reason they don't is because their story's wrong. Because obviously, if the story they had and were telling us was right, all the pieces would fit. And that's how you know that you're looking at the wrong pictures, even when you have one leftover piece. There's nothing that exists on the planet that doesn't fit into what exists. Nothing. And this is the deal. So if any time that there's a puzzle piece left over, well, your entire puzzle's wrong until that piece fits in. And because you know how it is, all you need to add is one fact and it can change everything. And those are the simple facts that they're keeping out. And you have to wonder why we've not revised our understanding of who we are, where we came from, or anything else in over 100 years. And if you can compare us to 100 years ago, or a little more, when people were using mercury and things like that as medicine, we've come so far. It would have been impossible for us not to have discovered or correct what we thought we knew. There's no way we got it right. There was a time the U.S. Patent Office in the late 1800s declared that they were going to close because everything had been invented. There was nothing left to invent, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're still standing with all of our history, especially about technology and previous cultures and races and all this, is we're standing on whatever was stated 100 years ago. And they refused. They're like the patent office refusing any new patent 100 years ago. Where would we be, right? We wouldn't have almost anything we have or use today. And that's what's happening. They bottlenecked us and stopped us in our tracks. I'm reading some of the comments here. Have done anything topic of the little people or touch anything like else? Little people are badass, and there are stories here of that. Matter of fact, the Apache regarded that related the traditional histories to me, said this valley we are now living in right now, it's about 40 by 60 miles, was completely off limits to the Apache, and they said all the natives for thousands of years, and they said it was home of the little people in Medicine Rock. And to attest to that, there was a skeleton found in the Cap Rock area, which is a escarpment of mesa lands against the Llano Estacado, the largest mesa in the world. And on the sides of that, there was a small skeleton found, like I said, south of San Juan, New Mexico. And the locals all knew about it, and somebody has it to this day. I just don't know and haven't been able to track down who. But it was a skeleton of an adult man that was 18 inches tall, and they had it the last I knew about was in a wooden box with red velvet or whatever, and it was in the box. But it's still in existence somewhere. It says, let's see, nameless. I'm just reading here, you guys. What I don't understand is how we've lost so much knowledge. Okay, yeah. It is funny how we've lost so much knowledge from the past. And have you ever noticed, worldwide, every single site that is truly impressive, awe-inspiring, or is an enigma when it comes to its architecture or technology of its construction, we don't know who built any of them. We assume who built them. But why do we have to assume? When we look at the structures in South America, they're pre-Inca. The Inca didn't build them. The Inca said that they were here when they got here. They were built by the people before time. Or in Egypt, they believe that a lot of those structures were built in the time of Zed Tepi, or the first time, the time before time. It's always the ancients in the time before time built that, regardless, worldwide. And it wasn't just once. It's happened over and over and over. I mean, obviously an event like the biblical flood or something like that had to have happened globally at some point or another to take us down as far as we went based on what we see that's leftovers. But even more recent than that, I think as close as even 600 or 800 years ago, it seemed like entire cultures were being wiped off the map. In North America, we have better examples of Ogam and dolmens and things like that than they do in Europe. We have better example of the kind of sculptures and script being used in southern France and Fontainebleau in the southwest USA better than they have in France. We have more and better examples of these things because those people disappeared from over there. If we look in the Libyan desert, we start to see the same things we find all over the American Southwest are found in remnant in the Libyan desert. And we don't know where those people disappeared to. The ones that lived out were using chariots a few thousand years ago, maybe even pre-Roman chariots, and had already domesticated horses and all these things thousands of years ago over there, and then those people completely vanished. Yet we can go in the American Southwest and find their script and their way of doing things. So it is interesting. Somebody seems to continually and over go over the whole globe and erase all the knowledge and erase the cultures and erase all sign of them being anywhere. They say, oh, they left no written records. Right. Well, the people who built all of Petra and Jordan and Cappadocia, all the underground stuff there, and all over the place. No one knows who built any of it. We say, well, they didn't have writing. No, it just means no one left any writing behind. When we see Hitler taking over, what's the first thing he did? Erase history, erase the books. We see ISIS go through. What do? Erase history, erase the books, erase the monuments, erase the people. You'd never know they existed at all. If they didn't have explosives, well, you'd end up leaving these giant monuments because you couldn't get rid of them. But you could get rid of all the books, the jade, the tools, the people, and everything else and erase them from the map. And that looks like that's what's happened globally over and over and over. Yeah, let's see. We understand. That's right. Isolationists do not fit. Absolutely. Everyone had to know everybody at least several times. The secret sciences are controlled, known by a few. We as humanity should already be traveling beyond the Milky Way by now. And we as humanity might be traveling beyond the Milky Way by now. And that's the thing. And we may have been for the last 50,000 years and just not telling the occupants of Earth, basically. Divergent societies have broken off, and they tend to do that. And when they do that, they themselves can excel to an extreme rate. And just basically, it's not in their interest to drag everyone else behind. Or with them, so. That's right. Grid-like structures all in the Americas and all over the world. Yep, there sure is. People don't realize if you go to Nellis Test Range, to Area 51, and use the right zoom and modification, you'll start seeing lines across the desert floor. And they're not new lines. These are ancient, were here before the Europeans ever got here. And they make huge maps and charts that look like star charts. And they exist over tens and tens and tens of miles. And they're so big that you're not going to be able to make them out unless you're at the right zoom. And then you have to kind of piece it all together. People don't even know that stuff's out there. See. It says, have a couple of small rocks cuts across. I'm assuming it's Ogan as well as some. Or basalt was cut like it was something soft they were cutting. Yeah, we've seen, and the earlier the more so. It seems like after a cataclysm happened, probably the Great Flood, something similar, whoever survived that seemed to have had some pretty outrageous tools, but limited. So they didn't have everything. They couldn't have a huge, it doesn't appear that they had a huge infrastructure and all this supporting, but it does appear that they had what it takes to manipulate large stone, to cut large stone, and even hand tools, not just like high-tech plasma lasers or whatever. We've seen glyphs and scratches and things cut that look like Native American, but whatever cut them cut into high olivine basalt like it was butter, leaving sharp knife cuts. And you can't do that. You can take any knife you want, hard as you can on olivine basalt, and it's not going to do anything but wear the knife down. But yet they look like knife cuts just directly in it, like it is, like the stone represented no problem for whatever they were using it on. Nameless, whatever message that would came up restricted. If you were trying to put a link in, YouTube won't allow that, so that's probably not going to work. But hey, you guys, I'm going to call this stream for the night. Like I said, we're trying to get a lot more on. And I want to ask everyone to think about considering becoming a patron. If you can drop a couple bucks and help us out, we're really putting the wheels to the grindstone. We're covering it, but there's just no way. And it's nice to know that we have, a greater family that's growing on. And we try to give you some perks for doing that and give you the inside loop on some stuff, and that's going to be getting a lot better. And it's not like, you have to shamelessly kind of ask for help these days to get anything done. And primarily, it's not even the Patreon thing as much as it is, try to share this stuff if you guys can. Make sure to subscribe and like and all that. And then you're going to have to recheck your notifications and check back with us, because we're shadow banned big time. You can check it out. And we could certainly use the help in getting the word spread around. That's the key, is getting the truth out there. We're trying to get enough people to be able to see these things first time out before they have a chance to block it or put it down. So whatever you guys can do to help out in that regime. And I ask that you would run to our store at KryderExploration.com, check out some of the stuff that's there. If anybody's been looking for an outrageous parabolic microphone, we build what I would consider the best in the world. No one's reporting ranges and clarity and stuff like we do. And we can get you set up with that kind of technology if you're into that. And whatever else we can do to help you can just reach out and touch base with us there at KryderExploration.com at the contact us. We have a research archive going on over there that's not got a lot in it yet, but we're trying as hard as we can to get the site built with the capacity that'll hold what we've got to lay down. So, okay, well, we're going to call it right here. I want to thank everybody for showing up. You guys have been great, hanging on, still viewing, watching with us. I really appreciate that. We don't have any visuals going. You guys got to listen to my voice. I feel for you. Anyway, I just want to say good night to everybody. Thank you for showing up. Follow up with us on Facebook. Follow up with us on KryderExploration.com. Keep in touch. Share this stuff.